Hello, I'm Rebecca Wallace. I'm a Professor of International Human Rights and I'm the principal author of the International Refugee Law module, which is offered by the University of London external programme and is in 4 sections, A, B, C and D. Initially, we look at the move towards affording protection to persons who may be deemed to be a refugee. What do we mean by the term refugee? Who is a refugee? So in section A, we look at what has become known as the classical definition of a refugee, and namely the main international instrument which provides, and since 1951 when it was adopted, and its optional protocol in 1967, that remains the convention to which we make reference when determining whether or not an individual is a refugee. In section A, in addition to looking at the historical, what went before the 1951 convention, we look at the history, we then consider the 1951 convention, and then we look at the way in which the term refugee has been interpreted, and also look at the other principles such as non-refoulement, because non-refoulement refers to the right that an individual has not to be returned to a place where he or she may have his life threatened. Because there is no right to be or to claim asylum. The right is not to be returned to a place where your life may be endangered. Because, of course, admission of individuals to the territorial boundaries of states creates a tension sometimes with the concept of state sovereignty, because states remain sovereign and they have the discretion to decide whom they are going to admit to their territorial boundaries, but they are under an obligation not to return someone to where their life may be at risk. In section B, we look at the role of the European Union, because as internal boundaries fell, then it became, in the eyes of the European Union, important to have a common external border, so that it didn't matter where an individual came in to the European Union, he or she would be treated in the same way. Hence you have the creation of a European asylum system. And we look at the different mechanisms that have been adopted and the way in which the European Union has adopted a standard as is reflected in the European Qualifications Directive. We also look at the way in which the European Council, the European Convention on Human Rights, has impacted on the rights of those individuals who are claiming refugee status. We look too at the way persons who have come from outside a country, and when their deportation may be sought, they may invoke certain provisions of the European Convention in order to argue against their removal. In particular, the article which has been most frequently invoked by individuals has been that of Article 8, namely the right to private and family life. And we see how that operates vis-à-vis the rights of others and the right of a state to maintain immigration policy. In section C, we look at the rights of refugees. Initially, in fact, we look at the rights of asylum seekers. What rights will they have? We also look at the minimum rights that refugees may claim. And we also look at the whole issue of what are we seeking? Durable solution. What constitutes a durable solution? That too is explored in the context of Section C. In Section D, we look at particularly individuals who may be at particular risk. In other words, not only are they refugees, but there is an added risk. That risk may be because they have a disability, it may be because they're a child, it may be because the individual is a woman, or it may be because of age. They're elderly. So in other words, they're doubly at risk. And in certain categories, for example, with regards to women, then there have been guidelines adopted both by the UN regarding refugees. There have been guidelines adopted as to how women applicants should be treated, and also certain countries have adopted guidelines as to the treatment of women. What is important is that the standard of proof has not been diluted, but it's been taken into account that women may, although they may face persecution, they may face persecution for different reasons other than men. So these factors have got to be taken into account when examining the claims from women, or again from children, because children may be persecuted in different ways from an adult, and also they will retain the memory of that persecution as a child, and that it has to be made apparent to decision makers that children, or at least the persecution, doesn't age with the individual but remains as experienced as a child. So these are some of the issues which are covered in this international protection of refugees, and some of the issues which will be explored in the various sections.